Hello, everyone. This is Andrew T coming back at you from a long hiatus, and we're going to talk a little bit about something that I never thought I'd want to talk about for a video. Rooster Teeth controversy in 2022. There's been controversy before. Didn't want to talk about it then. It was just not something that I felt like I had anything to say about. But then the newest things that came out within the last couple of days on Twitter and YouTube and all these other social media sites. There's been so much going on in my head. I figure I have to get it out in a video, and this is the best way to do it. So, those of you who don't know, there was some, I guess you call them layoffs, and Rooster Teeth again recently. Nothing new about that. It's been happening for years. The most recent layoffs was from Matt Bragg, and he tweeted that he was his position had been dissolved, it was no longer tenable for whatever reason, and they decided to keep him as a contractor to do, I guess, to do work without actually having to pay him that much until he found somewhere else. Along with him, there were a couple others that were dissolved. I think the event manager as well. I saw on Twitter. A couple other people, and then the other bombshell that is from the backlash that people that's still watching the content. I stopped about 5-6 years ago when it got to. Well, I'll leave that for another time, but apparently Matt Bragg had been single-handedly carrying Achievement Hunter for a while with his content and his shows. Again, I was not aware of this. I had stopped watching, but good on him for when he first came in and didn't really know if there was going to be a place to him to, hey, you're one of the few people actually keeping Achievement Hunter relevant. There was a huge backlash from the fans, like, hey, how can you do this? He's one of the few reasons why we're watching the content anymore for what he puts out. That came out, and he received a huge outpouring, and then not alongside, but pretty close to the time frame, Kaden Jensen also posted something about her time at Rooster Teeth and from the beginning till now. I'm not going to go into all of it, but let's just say that as someone who transitioned from what she was to what she is now, throughout that time, the discrimination, the homophobic slurs, the lack of payment for work done, lack of overtime paid, lack of quality, lack of just any decent things that any company would do for their employees. It's been well documented. I deeply suggest you go read her Twitter on that and to just go over just some of the things that she went through, and that kind of brought to light for that Twitter post. Not only that, but the working conditions, not only for her but for the animation staff. In the last couple of days, has seen a ton of people and former employees of Rooster Teeth that worked in the animation department going, yeah, it's all true. Lots of crunch time, lots of things, lots of inhumane working conditions, in-depth management that didn't know what they were doing or how to run an animation department. Anything you could think of, it was just horrible the way they were treated. But the reason I'm making this video is that as I thought in was about when I first started watching Rooster Teeth back when their first snippet of the Red versus Blue trailer before their first season up till when I stopped watching them I was watching almost all their content to now none of it. I was thinking about all the things that kind of bothered me throughout the years, and I thought I'd list a couple of those things today. Some may mean something, some may not, but I just felt it'd be good to get it out right now instead of kind of thinking about, well, what was it or wasn't it? So at the beginning, it was pretty good. Just a couple people working really hard to make content, and back then you had to. It was the early days of the internet. There was no YouTube. You had to work long, hard hours, and these people, this was their second jobs. So the founders did a lot to make sure that content was quality and that they put out a quality product. Fast forward to a couple of years later, they're getting more success. They're branching out into short films, short things like that. They're bringing in people from like the lead singer from Bare Naked Ladies. He did a couple things with them at their I think their second studio. Um, they brought in a couple more hires, like Gavin started to come in. Okay, and then they grew from there. I won't go into the whole history and timeline, so don't worry about it. But it was looking pretty well. They were growing. The content was getting better. The quality was getting better. Red versus Blue was still a hit. It was still getting lots of hits, and they were selling lots of merchandise. They had a big fan base. I'm from North Texas, the Dallas Fort Worth area. They were down in Austin, so all my friends and I loved their content just because they were, Texas people, and that we like to support them. Um, the very first thing I thought that something was amiss was whenever Kathleen, who played Tex for Red versus Blue, left the company under weird circumstances. They had literally gone to saying, hey, this is someone that literally helped us with a lot of production issues with our shows. She kept things streamlined. We couldn't have done it without her. And then a short time after that, I think it was a tweet or something else came out that they gave her these accolades. She was gone, and I was just thinking that was weird. This was someone that was popular in the community. You just said that she was an integral part of your process. She'd worked on movies before. She worked on Iron Giant, which is a classic, and was familiar with the overall process of producing the type of medium. So when she was let go, it kind of surprised me because she had ongoing characters with everything. So that was kind of the first thing. A couple other things that just come to mind. On a podcast, Bernie said that one of the other British people that they other than Gavin that they used to hang out with back in the old days, I believe his name was Ben, came over at one point to visit, and I think I may be not quoting this directly, but Bernie said something along the lines of, "Yeah, we put him. He came over. We put him to work for the weekend. Then he went home." And I think he was about 15 at the time, and I think the joke was, "Yeah, we probably broke a bunch of child labor while I was doing that." I was like, "Well, okay, kind of funny story, I guess, but why? What would you have to a 15-year-old, even if he was, technically sound and knew something about programming or whatever else? Why would you bring someone in to work over the weekend as a minor and then have them go home? It seemed like not a very stand-up thing to do for someone that's coming to visit a place that they liked and assume that they were going there for another reason, I'm assuming. But that was kind of the first thing I was like, wait, what? Um, Other things that came up, Achievement Hunter was taking off in the early days. They had a good mix of people. They had really good uh, chemistry with each other, and it looked like they had fun. They had fun playing these games, and it came through in their videos. Uh, One thing that kind of bothered me though, just probably reading too much into it, but when they had Achievement City and they're building everyone's houses, hey, here's a house over here, here's a house here, house over here, and then the big joke is Jeff has this big house because he's a boss. All right, got it. And then, but everyone else had fairly decent houses. Some were not as good as others. But then Ray's house was just dirt, and I remember the first thing in the video, he's literally straight up asked, "Why's my dirt?" And no one answered. And he played it off like the pro he is. Like, "Oh, well, it's on my New York apartment," I believe he said. And then they just transitioned over to Jeff's house. And then I was like, why did they make it out of dirt? Don't know. I hope it wasn't a racial thing, but looking back on how things have gone there and how, what Achievement Hunter's true colors have kind of been, it's hard. It's something to think about. I'm probably reading too much into it, but that's just kind of one of the things that bothered me at the time that I didn't really think about until recently. Uh, Achievement Hunter had other controversies way in the future. Ray left, being the smart one. He knew that it was going to be non-sustainable for what they were doing, putting out content that was basically just assembly line, just crap, and forcing jokes and having to force content and seeing how other channels were kind of doing it organically and having fun doing it. and then he left and became immediately successful on Twitch. Just because whenever he was on camera, before he got burned out, his jokes maybe weren't the funniest, but they were believable because they were things that he thought were funny, and so other people would think they were funny, even if they were cringy. But that was just his sense of humor. He never forced it. But going to Ray, he left, and then they brought in Jeremy and Matt. Out of the RTX, I believe they made a whole big thing of, "Hey, you're hired now." And one of the things that didn't sit well with me was that I think they had a couple of videos where they had a tryout for Matt and Jeremy, and they didn't really seem to like Matt a whole lot from that time. They didn't really give him a whole lot of chance to kind of be himself or stretch out. Jeremy had a good showing, so he won Ray's spot as a regular person on there, and showed that he did a good job. Moving on a couple more years, you have Ryan Hayward coming in, and then after many more years leaving due to his controversy of grooming underage fans, which is unconscionable. And then after that, yeah, they were on the same time. You had Adam from Funhouse. At this point, Rooster Teeth is huge. They have multiple channels, multiple locations in California and Texas. They're spending a lot of money. They want return on investment. They're now, they're not no longer privately owned. They're now part of a corporation, and all this is coming through. And apparently, throughout all this, uh, Caden Jensen, who was working there as an editor and achievement hunter, and among other projects, was working longer hours, was working twice as hard, was not getting paid correctly, and was also becoming called a homophobic slur by Achievement Hunter. And there's been a couple tweets as of this video. One was from Gavin, I believe he came out first with a tweet that said, "Hey, I was stupid back then. I thought it was funny. I'd like to apologize. Apologize to Caden for this." And it just came across as, well, it's almost like a politician when someone finally digs something up on them. They're like, "Oh yeah, I'm a better person now, though. Like when I did it, I was just misguided, and it wasn't my fault. But I'm this be the person I am now." Well, I tweeted in response to Gavin's tweet there back at him. I replied that, "Hey, it's easy to have integrity in hindsight. It's a lot easier if you're a good person to begin with." Uh, One of my favorite quotes is, "You are what you do when it counts." And what that means is that you do what you do when you have the opportunity to do it, rather than, "Oh, well, looking back, I could have done something better, and I would have, but if you didn't, it doesn't matter." Actions speak louder than words is what it comes down to. And when it really counts, whenever you're supposed to stand up for someone, or wherever you're supposed to call out injustice or things like that you have power over, it's not good to be 10 years later going, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. My bad." Well, 10 years later, that person's had to suffer. Anyone who's been picked on at school knows that they remember every bully, every comment, every time they made their life a living hell, every little snide nickname and remark. Those things don't just go away from an apology. Like, where are the years you get back from the daily torture and grind from being called something like that? That that just doesn't go away. No matter how magnanimous people are, you still have the initial trauma and the days and years of trauma that go along with it. So that was one of the things I saw and I tweeted back, and there were people that liked my comment. There were people that responded like, "Oh yeah, but he's a better person now, so it shouldn't matter." I'm like, "It shouldn't matter." So it was pretty evenly split for the people that like my comment versus the people like the other comments going, "Oh yeah, but you're being too hard." And I'm like, I didn't say anything bad about him. I just said, your actions should speak louder than words, basically. But there were people rushing to defend him. And then Michael came out with something and said, "Oh yeah, I apologized to him twice already." I'm like, "Well, then why are you posting anything? Why do you feel the need to post anything? If what you've said has already been said, why do you feel the need to tell everyone, 'No, I was a good guy. I swear, I did this before this even happened?'" It just comes off as Just goes off as cheap. And then Jeff was the worst one. He tweeted that basically he blamed it on his alcoholism. I've known a lot of alcoholics in my life. I've known some that were angry drunks, some that were happy drunks, some that were sad drunks, some that were, when they drank, they were honest drunks. And a lot of them, when they drank, showed their real personality. Whether it was snide, rude, fun, mean, whatever, alcohol does not make you say a homophobic slur. And the reason I bring this up, and I'm on a achievement hunter right now before I go into other things, is that whenever the whole department is calling you that nickname, it takes one person to speak up and go, hey, that's not cool. And in Jeff's case, he was the boss. If he would have said the first time, if someone else said it first, that, hey, don't use that word, that's not cool. Don't ever do that again. Don't use that in that kind of language in this workplace. It would have been done. So, but if he said it first, then everyone else would have thought, well, it's okay. He's the boss. I can do it too. And apparently it's funny and it's okay to do that. So all it would have taken was one instance of him just manning up and being like, you know what, let's not do that anymore. But I can't imagine the years that she had to endure that slur daily. And then when they were on content, when they were using a code word for it, and then knowing privately that this was what they were doing to her just because they could. And bullies always go back and say, oh, I just thought it was, they're in on the joke. I didn't think it was that bad. I'm like, there's people been tweeting right now calling them out on their BS. Like, hey, if it wasn't that bad, why'd you didn't you put in your content? Why'd you have to mask it with another word? So that's all I'm going to say about that for Achievement Hunter. Their content has been horrible for a long time. Even before I stopped watching, it was going downhill. Hour-long episodes of them just talking and nothing about the gameplay being any fun. But anyway, I digress. A couple other things that I noticed. Blaine, when he first joined, it was the RT podcast. Bernie called him out and said, hey, who's that handsome guy over there? It was something, I can't remember the exact words, but it was something like, we don't need that kind of guy here. F that guy. No, he shouldn't be this handsome he shouldn't be around here. And because Bernie said it, and then became the running joke for years for Blaine to get picked on or put down. Just by anyone, it seems like, oh, no, you're Blaine. Bernie did it first when you first got here. So that's now our culture. Apparently he overcame and he became a content creator. But how would you like to have your very first interaction on camera with a founder and he's putting you down? Like, I'm not sure my self-esteem could have handled if I was a big fan at that point. But like I said, it looks like Blaine persevered and he's doing pretty well for himself still at the company. But so that was one of the things that bothered me as well. Just that the treatment of people just for no reason, just to be snide or mean or put someone down. And when it's someone that's looking to make a career for themselves, how you portray them online is a huge deal. Caleb from Achievement Hunter, he was mercilessly just lambasted in the community because of how he's portrayed in the videos. And the thing I want to understand is that why would you even do that narrative for someone that is part of your department? I mean, does there have to be a whipping boy? Do you have to put someone down? And just, I know the community went insane. I heard he got death threats for just stupid stuff because everyone else that the videos they put out was doing the same thing. They didn't give him any screen time. They didn't give any chance to be himself. I don't know if he had any aspirations of being an on-camera talent or things along that nature or a creator in Achievement Hunter. But from the first couple, it was basically obvious that, hey, you'll be around maybe once or twice, but don't think about ever coming into our chair. That's what kind of the vibe I got from it. Then let's move on to Mika Burton, who, by all accounts, thought she was living the dream from what it looked like. She met Gavin. She went to RT Extra Life with her dad. She applied for a job out of college, got it. She was a theater major, I believe. She knew a lot about presentation, acting, being uh, pre- all those things that you want for a creator that you want to be on camera. And from her recollections of her time there were just nothing but racial hatred and just all these other things. The community not liking her, her disastrous stint on Off Topic, where they just let her go and didn't bother helping her on a live broadcast um, until she finally left as well. And I'm just thinking at this point, wait, they're bringing in all these people. They brought in, all these other people, and now they're leaving. Why are they all leaving? Why is Mika Burton leaving? Why is all these other people leaving? Their jobs don't just dissolve. One of the most sad, in my opinion, was Andy Blanchard. Andy Blanchard was part of the Internet Box, who consisted of Mike Kroon, Michael Jones, uh, Lindsey Jones, Barbara Dunkelman, Ray Nevereds Jr. They had a podcast before they even got to Rooster Teeth. He was, I believe, the last one of the Internet Box to get hired, and then he was working in the Achievement Hunter offices, I believe, as editor or something behind the scenes, doing that type of work. And then he was just let go. Apparently, he was the only one. It wasn't a mass layoff or firings or anything like that. But what I got from the content that was on there as well, that Andy was very well liked, but I don't didn't get the feeling that he was appreciated rather than just tolerated when he was on camera, and the things he said and the way people reacted to him on the content that he made with people. So there's too many to go down the list of people that were there, then were gone, just seemingly too quickly, or as soon as they could get out, they did. One of the last things we're going to talk about is their HR department. From everything on Twitter, all the animators, all the other people are talking, Caden, Mika, all these other people. The HR department was apparently a joke. If you had problems with crunch time animation, if you had a problem with homophobic slurs or anything like that, things that would wreck any other company if a lawsuit was brought or that they found that they had factual evidence for. Uh, and I'm thinking that with all this coming out, a class action lawsuit is probably likely. And I'm just thinking at this point, any decent HR department would just go, hey, there's some guidelines here. Let's everyone sign them. If you don't adhere to them and they have witnesses, you can be terminated. Why don't they have something like this in place? And instead of here, they have NDAs where, hey, you don't talk about anything here. Oh, by the way, if you have any ideas that come in here, and especially the creator for Nomad of Nowhere, who brought their idea to Rooster Teeth, probably had it stolen, uncredited, and then was forced out of the direction of the animation into just being an animator until he finally left the company, being mismanaged by his peers, Jordan Swear and Maggie Tomini and Gray. Uh, I was really surprised that they had Jordan Swears be head of animation from a guy who literally looked like his animation was done by a flip book of a seventh grader. His animation was stick figures. Okay? It wasn't anything overly complicated. I don't know why he was head of animation. I don't know if he had any background in it or education in it or even things managing animation department. They just decided one day, hey, he's going to be head of animation, I guess because he knew people. And his videos were kind of popular on the site. But I digress. Throughout all this, the HR department, such as it was, didn't do anything. The people had said they went to Matt Hullum when he had an open door policy, and there's been many, many tweets about that from people that said they went straight to him and had maybe apology or something a little bit better, but didn't address it. Or they were asked to give names of who else was unhappy so they can bring them in. So going from that to other people talking to other founders saying, hey, do you know what's going on here? Do you care? No, apparently not. And meanwhile, the founders are making millions. Bernie, having a custom Tesla. I if that's the benchmark, I'm guessing that the others did pretty well as well. Even the ones that are no longer there, and then they are underpaying or not paying their regular employees. It just makes me incredibly sad that something that I devoted a good portion of my life to, and that their content brought me a good amount of joy to myself, uh, find out that it's basically slave working conditions there. At one point, who didn't want to work at Rooster Teeth growing up? Who didn't want to work say, hey, I think I have something to bring. I'd love to go down there and help them out or just be a part of it. Even if you weren't a content creator, if you just want to go build sets, if you want to just be part of the crew, do whatever you can to help them out, just to be part of something special. And then get there and realize, oh, it's not like that at all, and I can't do anything. So, saying all this is in a pretty rambling video. There's really no point to it other than to point out all these things that I thought were just, when they happen, I didn't sit well with me. And then whenever all these other things came out, it kind of made more sense for why the content was the way that it was. And why they felt the need that someone had to be below where they were. It's like if you're anywhere below where anyone else was, then I guess it just all went downhill. And from what people are saying on Twitter, the people there are trying their hardest. They came there with good intentions. They're trying to change it from the inside, but it's just they have too much working against them, and no one cares. So I'm hoping that they all band together, everyone that's currently there, along with the people that have left, and they find a good lawyer to open up a class action lawsuit and then sue them for every cent that they have. Because the content is no longer palatable from what other people have said in the last couple of years. I saw where it was going 5-6 years ago. And once you run out of stuff to talk about in the podcast, it's just what'd you do today? And who wants to hear about that? You know about everyone's marriages, you know about their kids, you know about their sex lives, you know everything about them. What's left? Nothing. And so you don't have anything left. You're just an empty shell. So anyway, that's my video. I don't think I should say I hope you enjoyed it because I didn't enjoy really making it. But this is more for my catharsis than anything else. If you watch this and you feel the same way, just get on Twitter, post on their channel, do something to reach out and help the current streamers that have lost their jobs. Maybe give them a subscribe if you're into that. Do something positive or do something to help facilitate change if you can in a healthy way. So, once again, I'm Andrew T. It's probably my last video in the next couple years. Until then, here's hoping it gets better.